Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Before we jump into today's conversation, a special thanks to PM Power Consulting for encouraging and supporting this show right from the start. With over 1,000 person-years of collective experience, PM Power has helped many organizations, teams, and individuals chart out their own journeys of excellence and make progress. Thank you, PM Power. Now, let's move to today's episode.
I'm excited to share this conversation with Rachana Shenoy, who's a manager in software engineering with HP Enterprise. And she talks about her love of mathematics that got her into engineering and started her career being overwhelmed by very senior people. And now she mentors people in a very empathetic way, just like how she's learned from her seniors. And she also shares tips and tricks as to how she manages her commute time, takes care of her utilization of her, and also she shares some of the support system that she's built around her. Listen on. Hi, Rachana. Welcome to the Software People Stories. So very happy to have you here, Rachana. And I know it's been, 2 months that we have been trying to reach out to do this recording.
Hey, thank you so much, Gayatri. It's my absolute pleasure and privilege to be here. And I know we've been talking about it, and the anticipation has been building up. I'm glad we found this common slot, and I'm so happy to be here and chatting with you.
Perfect. Rachana, let's get started with how you got yourself in software right at the outset. If you can give that introduction and give a brief on your career, that will help us and our listeners to understand who Rachana is.
Okay, sure, absolutely, Gayatri. So I like to say this quite often. I was bred, buttered, and jammed in Mysore. So yeah, my upbringing has been completely in Mysore. So my school and college and engineering. So I've had the privilege to stay with my parents for 22 years until I completed my graduation. So what happened was I come from a family of doctors. So my dad is a general physician and cardiologist, and he has a bunch of siblings. There are 6 siblings, 5 brothers, and 3 of them are doctors actually, and 2 of their wives are also doctors. So interestingly, many of us expected me and my brother to take up a medical, considering a lot of doctors in the family. But then what happened was. One obvious reason is we would see very less of my dad because of his really busy profession, and I knew that work-life balance is kind of low there, and my love for math. So I really liked math. Right from school and college, I loved math. I loved problem solving. So I wanted to take something which involved math in it, to be very honest. So that's the reason. And those days there wasn't much exposure, right? For example, kids today know of so many different professions and there's so much exposure. And so it was pretty much like, okay, if it's a professional thing, then it has to be engineering or medicine. So almost in back in the day, right? In late 1990s and 2000, that was the thing. So my brother, I have an elder brother, he has done engineering as well. So that was a natural choice. I liked math. I didn't want medical, so let me go for engineering. So that was the logic behind it, and that's how I just got into engineering.
Very cool. And what is your early experience or plunge into software? I know the current generation thinks of software as everything that is there in the phone, right? But I wanted to understand, how did you come across software?
Right. So, I mean, once I completed my PU, right? So, in fact, electronics and computer science, these were sort of the hot branches, right? So, I absolutely had no inclination or no, you know, um, I didn't have anything in my mind that I have to do computer science engineering. It just happened that, the counseling happened. And in fact, I had several rounds of counseling at that point of time. It never was remote. So, I got into a college called NIE, and then after 15 days, I got into another college in Mysore called JC, and I had got information science at that point of time. And if you do well in the first year, then you get a slide up. So that's how things used to function then. I'm sure there are a lot of changes now. So after the first year of engineering, I actually got into computer science because of my marks and academics and as such. So computer science in JC, that's what I did. And JC was a better choice at that point of time because we knew that campus recruitment was good. So it was as simple as you kind of finish your graduation and get a good placement. So that was what it was. But only after I joined the industry, I really got to know that, okay, these are the areas that you can contribute and this is where your strengths can come into picture. So I would say that I pretty much got into engineering with a blank slate as well as I got into the industry with a blank slate without knowing what's involved. So it's like you take the plunge and learn. That's how it was for me, Gayatri.
Very, very cool, Rachna. So you joined HP and you had a very long stint at Dell. I think almost
That's right.
15 years, right, at Dell. So can you share some of your early experiences in working in large organizations? What has been that like?
Right, right. So Gayatri, I was an intern at Hewlett Packard. So at that point of time, it was not split into HP and HPE. So life comes a full circle. So from the past 5 years, I joined HPE. So yeah, it's interesting. So I joined as an intern at Hewlett Packard, and then I got converted to a full-time employee in HP. And back in the day, we were working in this Indian Express building, which didn't even look like a software company. So if you've seen on Queens Road, there is this Indian Express building, which is actually the newspaper office, right? And they had a mezzanine floor, and several of HP buildings were distributed all over Cunningham Road and Queens Road, etc. So that was my very first job. So interestingly, I was recruited as a compiler engineer, C and C++ compilers. So we were developing the C compilers, and I had to, do some bug fixing, understand the compiler code. To be very honest, in my first job, I was overwhelmed. The whole team was full of PhD guys and guys who used to talk about very deep topics on compilers, C++ compilers, optimizations, and different algorithms. And there were a huge bunch of experts, and they were all PhDs from ISC. So in the beginning, it was really overwhelming for a fresher like me coming in from Mysore and, starry eyes and all of that. But thankfully, I did find my ground. My manager was extremely supportive. He handheld me. I had a lead who handheld me. So it was a nice, cozy team environment where I learned quite a bit. So I would say for a fresher at that point of time, things were overwhelming. Nowadays, when I see freshers joining my team, right, I feel they're all industry ready. They have their LinkedIn profiles up and running, and they know what to do. They know how to write emails. They don't have much of self doubt. But back in the day, that was not the case. So it was like it took me a while to ease into the organization, and it took me a while to ease into the role and figure out how things work. So yeah,
Very nice.
that's my experience at HP.
I love the fact that you started in HP and life has come back and you're doing very well as a in HP as an engineering manager as well as a you talk in many conferences. You talk about microservices, observability, and so on and so forth. So tell me a little more about how you went about understanding the whole enterprise software by itself. How do you explain to a enterprise software working and everything? How's that growth been for you?
Right, right. So yeah, maybe I will take a couple of steps back and maybe talk about the career journey and then about my foray into enterprise software.
Yep.
So I worked in HP as a compiler engineer for 2 years. And then I switched to EMC, which is now Dell EMC. So I had a very long stint in EMC. It was almost 11.5 years until I quit in 2019 to join HPE. So in EMC, basically I joined as a developer, and we were working on storage management solutions. So EMC is a very large enterprise and has their own products, right? They have enterprise storage. So we have several brand names like EMC VMAX, EMC VNX. So our division was developing manageability solutions for those storage. So that's really my start of the storage journey, which is quite a niche in the industry. So it all began with developing code for a large enterprise solution where we are managing either hosts or switches or arrays. So getting to know about the interoperability, getting to know about the various components like arrays, switches, HPAs, hosts. So working on different operating systems, working on different versions of OS. So it gave me a lot of exposure in that sense. And I slowly, you can say the growth was very organic. So, from a software engineer to a senior software engineer and associate principal engineer. And then, there was an opportunity, and they felt that my skills and, my strengths align with the management. And I got into management fairly quickly in my career. So, in less than 10 years, I was given a supervisor role, and then, became a manager in around 10, 11 years or something. So, I would say in a very large organization, even HPE or HPE or something. So a lot of processes are in place. So you don't have to sort of invent the processes, but there's this, adherence to process that you learn, the stakeholder management that you learn. And one thing that I learned very early is, you need to take ownership and accountability for what you're assigned to. So that's what I tell the junior engineers in my team. Whatever is assigned to you, maybe it is unit test cases, maybe it is developing a small feature or bugs, take complete accountability of that end to end. So you be the owner, you be the driver in the driver's seat and take responsibility, kind of thing. And one other thing, when it comes to large organizations, right, especially it's very true in today's day and age, is huge changes. And the changes come very frequently. So, there's change in the organization strategy, or there are changes in, let's say, the project, the product roadmap. So I think one really needs to embrace change, and change is only constant there in that sense. So in a large organization, I would say that's another aspect. The change management things are very fluid, it keeps changing. But at the same time, I think the employee benefits, the learning that you have from your peers, from your team members, that has been immense.
Excellent, Rachana. I have several questions, follow-up questions for so, first is, you mentioned or alluded towards starting to become a people manager early on. What does early mean? The reason why I'm asking this is, today, the younger current generation, we are doing a lot of projects together in college itself. Yeah, where one person becomes a leader and the other person actually rallies around and doing it. Be it voluntary work or be it, academic work, a lot of those leadership qualities comes soon, or at least expected from our curriculum. And that sort of keeps moving, right? While we may not have a manager as a tag, but we take initiative across various times, right? From our initial bit. So I want to understand how you looked at it from your career. From was there a clear transition, or you already were doing it early on? Because that's a very cool thing for listeners to understand how one prepares for that journey.
Okay. Yeah, as you rightly pointed, it's not like bang, one day you're like, okay, you're the supervisor, this is the team, you take these 4 people or 5 people and start this team, kind of a thing, right? It is an evolution, like you mentioned, and it is gradual. So what happened was, the project that I was given, I was the lead and I had a small team and we used to work together. And at that point of time, there was a position that was open. I think it's always important to be at the right place at the right time. That's one thing. And I think some of the key characteristics are it could be as simple as verbal communication, oral communication, your ability to build a rapport with people, your ability to connect with people, empathize with people, and even building that stakeholder connect, whether it is your local teams or whether it is remote teams. So these kind of things I think definitely help. And probably these kind of things were pivoting me towards that journey. So it was like a natural a transition where whenever there was a position open, they were like, okay, why don't we ask her to lead this team? So it was like from a team lead to a supervisor kind of, where I started with a 4-5 member team sort of a thing. And then it was like, okay, the coolest thing that I've heard when I started the management journey was management is just three things, manage down, manage at the same level, manage up. This is management. So, which I always remember and which is true. It's about managing your subordinates, managing your peers, managing your higher ups. So, yeah, and in this journey, I feel the more challenges that you encounter, the more people challenges you have, and the more situations you encounter, no MBA book will teach you. But the different kind of situations, the different kind of people challenges, and the different kind of things that you undergo, right, and you face, that itself is a learning. That itself helps you evolve your leadership journey. So, I mean, I don't think so. You can read a lot of HBR articles, you can read a lot of books out there, but nothing will prepare you unless you solve the real kind of challenges that come your way, and that will refine you, that will make you more seasoned over a period of time. That's my belief around this.
Very rightly put. I love your quote on managing three ways in which you manage. In fact, of late, of late, the other management that comes in is how do you manage your learning and capability
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
for
yeah.
your team as well as for yourself, right? Because
Correct, correct.
technology is rapidly changing. Now, if it doesn't change, then
Right,
it's a
right, right.
surprise, right? So how do
True,
you
true, true.
work with that, Rachana?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very, very relevant question, right? The continuous learning part. So, I mean, we are also busy, we are also tied up, and we have back-to-back things to do, whether it's with our family, whether it's with our work. So, I mean, my take on this is I don't think so. We can imagine 2 hours, 3 hours at a stretch that we'll have, okay, I'm going to dedicate this time only for my personal growth or my learning or anything. You will have swatches of time, you will have small bits of time which you need to utilize. For instance, one of the best practices that I follow, I am a huge user of public transport. So I actually take the metro. I live 25 kilometers away from my office, but commute via metro is much easier that way. So that commute is like a sort of a me time. That 35-40 minutes is uninterrupted time for me, both ways, going and coming back. So that is something that I truly utilize. So I would say that don't expect to have a dedicated long hours to do your learning or continuous learning or something. You will have to utilize those bits and pieces of time within your day itself to invest in your learning. In the methods in which I would, at least my personal thing has been, I'm part of several communities, Gayatri. So I have felt that that has been very useful. For example, I'm in Lean in Women in Tech community, and there's a very active WhatsApp group, and people keep sharing articles, people keep sharing information about hackathons or information about conferences and things like that. So that's how I try to utilize that information. And also LinkedIn, I think that's a great source. So a lot of articles on LinkedIn, a lot of technologies that you want to learn, that's available on LinkedIn. And following some of these influencers, so there are some of them on LinkedIn also, top voices on LinkedIn for AI, and top voices for let's say microservices or system design and things like that. So following them and reading some articles, and even being active in communities, I feel that's a great source of inspiration, because there's so much going on, and you can find inspiration day to day everywhere, but it's very important to stay inspired to prevent that slump. That's what I would say in every aspect of life. It's important to stay inspired, and that will truly prevent your burnout as well as prevent you from being in a slump situation.
Rachana, did I hear you right that you actually commute 40 kilometers a day? My goodness.
But guess what? It just takes me 40 minutes one way. So, I mean, people
Okay.
who live in Whitefield take longer to reach office than me living 25 kilometers away, thanks to Bangalore Metro.
Oh, wow. And I love your talking about, utilizing the time, I mean, using it as your me time to actually reflect. And in fact, one of those things that I normally do, I used to do is send me voice notes, which now you can use those notes and actually do the journaling and everything. I sort of
Oh, lovely,
spend
lovely.
time on reflecting and learning and upskilling oneself. Uh,
Hmm, hmm,
and
hmm.
that's amazing to know that, right? So just staying curious on what is happening around you and tinkering that
Absolutely.
as and when you have time. So talk to me more about how you manage all of your work with what is happening in the rest of your life. If you're saying it's going to take some time, commute with your house and everything. If you don't mind, can you share a bit about your own personal life and how you manage that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So my husband is in IT as well. So he's a senior director in Philips, and he's in the medical division. So they develop software for medical systems. He's responsible for the software division in Philips. Uh, he is absolutely busy. He's much busier than me. I have a daughter, a teenage daughter who's 15-year-old. She's in ninth grade and studies in NPS. I mean, see, this work-life balance kind of a topic, right? I feel is beaten to death, isn't it? So all conversations it comes up, and this is a topic that's beaten to death. Actually, I would like to take it as work-life integration. So there's nothing like work-life balance. I would say it is a work-life integration. And one of the things that I feel is it is very much dependent on that current situation. For example, sometimes work totally takes a priority. Maybe you have a release, you have and things to take care of. Maybe you'll have to stretch on the work front, or maybe something personal. Let's say at times you have maybe ailing parents or in-laws or something going on in terms of a function, or there are times in which work can get a priority or a precedence. There are times in which your other activities in your life can get a precedence. So I think constantly planning, constantly prioritizing. You have to prioritize, reprioritize. That's how it would work. I don't think so there's a magic formula that works for everyone, but that's something that I follow. Constantly prioritize and figure out what are the top 3 things or top 4 things which have to be done, which is urgent. That matrix, right? That
Mm,
4 matrix,
yeah.
urgent, important kind of thing. And the other thing is building a supportive network, building a support system, which is both at home as well as at office, that will really ease out things for you. I think we need to really identify support system, invest in building that support system, and nurture it. I am totally blessed to have in-laws. I stay with my in-laws, and they're like my second set of parents. So, I mean, I actually want to call out my father-in-law specifically here because, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday I work from home, and we have like a duplay. I work from the office room in the first floor. He's actually coming to me and getting me fruits in the morning. So, I mean, it's like that. He's such a sweetheart. So, I would say my in-laws have been my total support system at home. And at office also, I think it's very important to build your support system, especially things should function even in your absence. So people should have that, maybe at one point of time you have the command and control, but they should know what are the expectations, and maybe one level of people whom you totally trust, who can carry on even in your absence. So I think it's very important to educate, guide, and prepare that next set who can take on responsibilities. Whether, let's say, you're stuck with something else, you're having to take some emergency leave, or whatever may be the case, right? It's very important to have that support system and actively invest. It's not like one time I build the support system, I'm done. It's a ongoing process. You need to keep identifying people, building their skills, nurturing them, guiding them. But I think it's worth it at the end of the day. I would say building a nurturing support system would come on top to be able to have that balance. Otherwise, things can go awry and things can get very stressful without that.
So true, Archana. In fact, I was going to add when you say planning and prioritizing, also communicating and managing expectations for our people around you as well as self. Sometimes
Oh, true, 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 true.
we put such a high pressure on ourselves by creating a, you know, uh, need for perfection and need for everything, right? You can't be everybody
True, true, true.
to everyone. So
True,
very
true. Yeah. I mean, that perfection thing, I'm hearing it more and more now. Progress versus perfection. I think instead of perfection, you can concentrate on steady progress. Need not be perfection, but maybe consistent progress will get you there.
You mentioned about your own journey about getting into enterprise and learning about it, embracing change. And embracing change, do you have any stories that you want to share as to how you have adapted in embracing those changes? Because those oftentimes, while it looks very nice to hear, saying that change is the only constant and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Can you share some stories in which have been pivotal for you to embrace that and continue to excel?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I would say one pivotal point, which was a huge change, was while back in Delhi MC, right? At one point, what happened was the engineering division that we were working on. Uh, so it was decided that that particular engineering division, they are going to sell it to a service company, which is HCL, right? So the engineering would be with the HCL, but the branding of those products would still be with the Delhi MC kind of a situation. So, and we were not given very clear guidelines. We were just told that all of you will get new offer letters with the HCL kind of a deal. And it wasn't very transparent what was going to happen if you don't accept those offer letters. So generally the cases, I mean, you didn't have much time. It was just a month or month and a half or so. So, I mean, majority of the people did think that, okay, we'll probably take these offers because it's a very short duration to probably look out and things like that, right? Uh, at that point, what happened was I was not prepared to join a service organization and I wanted to continue in the product kind of scenario, right? I started actively looking out and things like that. Luckily, things just fell in place and I got an offer from HPE, another organization. But at that time, they had not told us what will happen to those who had not taken the chance or rather the offer, right? So I would say that's an example of not taking a risk is the biggest risk, because what happened was people who actually did not take the offer from HCL and they said, we don't know what's going to happen. We were actually given a very, handsome compensation, or we were given a severance, which was never told, because if it was told, everyone would go that path. So on the last day, we were told that, okay, this change is there. We will have to let you go because we don't have a position here, and kind of got a severance. And luckily at that point of time, I even had another offer. So that was a big change, because 11 and a half years in one organization, it's not just about you being in an organization for long, you building those rapport, those connections, those your team members, everything, right? It was very painful because it was like second family, right? You have built all those relations, and the camaraderie that you have, it is very, very difficult. And even after joining a new organization, I think people who have spent a significant amount of time in one organization and they move, they will constantly ask themselves, did I do the right thing? They will constantly validate their decision. So yeah, I mean, I think things turned out fine. In terms of, I had a much more challenging role and much more in terms of scale, in terms of the kind of product portfolio that I got, etc., and a lot more in terms of professional learning. So one thing about change is don't shun it. That's my experience. Embrace it in the sense, try to accept that change and what's next. Try to see what's next instead of, fretting about it, because change is constant. That's the only thing which is constant. So with that, I would say sometimes or more often, not taking the risk is the biggest risk. And I think one more, throughout the journey, even while probably in Dell or even in my current organization, right? There's always a change in decision. For example, there are always changes in product roadmap. There are always changes in priorities. You're asked to drop what you're doing right now and move to something else. So what I tell my engineers, or what I tell people is, see, the product that you're working on may have changed. The feature that you're working on may have been dropped, but your learning is with you. whatever decision has been taken, whatever priority has changed, whatever change has happened, your learning no one can take away from you. So don't be emotionally attached about the specific developed feature that you have or the product that you're associated with. Just be aware that you have had a learning which no one can take away from you. So I think that's one thing about change, I would say, because there are so many changes in terms of divisions, in terms of products, in terms of processes. So I think that's the way I would talk to my team about, especially changing priorities or changing products, etc.
Wow, I love the story, Rachana. You know, you're looking at adversity or ambiguity and volatility at one shot. And it's easier to get bogged down. Completely, what you're talking about is rather than getting bogged down about the situation, you just come out of it and say,
Mm-hmm.
how can you take a better call? Or because those are those pivotal moments that make you who you are as a person. Are there any other pivotal stories that you can share? I'm loving the story about your change and not and taking the right decisions at the right times. You listen to the first part of the conversation with Rachana Shenoy, you will hear some of the benevolent tips that she's talking about. In the second one, you will hear more of the tips that she manages, techniques, and most importantly, how she manages to balance the delivery pressure with employee engagement score.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.